Imagine if you were so unfit that you couldn't even rest comfortably. Oh, this is so difficult. Oh, my knees. Oh, this is so uncomfortable. That'd be pretty weird, right? Well, that's basically what you look like when you try to get into a resting squat. After we got amazing results with the hanging challenge, we had to try out another primal movement idea that also comes from movement guru Ido Portal. 30 minutes of squatting for 30 days. Also, lots of you told us to do this in the comments, so we had to give it a try. This is a resting squat, sometimes also called an Asian squat. Every toddler has a perfect resting squat, like Chinese Olympic lifter levels of perfect. Unfortunately, in our sedentary, chair-filled life, we all tend to unlearn this position. It really is supposed to be as comfortable as sitting in a chair, but for most of us, we can't do it anymore. The 30 for 30 challenge is supposed to help fix this. But before we get into the challenge, we have to ask an important question. Does it matter? Sure, maybe you can't get into a comfortable deep squat, but if you're not an athlete, does it make any difference? In theory, yes. There's at least one way in which all of us can benefit from better squat mobility. If you can't get into this position comfortably, it basically means that you have limited mobility. Your ankles, maybe your hips, maybe other joints are not strong and flexible through their full range of motion. Limited mobility is one of the things that can cause injury eventually. Whether it is while playing a sport or doing some other physical activity, or even doing just some everyday thing like picking up a heavy bag of groceries, limited mobility means that sooner or later you'll get in a position that your body can't quite handle. You'll have to compensate, and that's when you throw out your back or something else goes wrong. In doing research on this, I found many claims about health benefits of squatting, but not that much evidence. For example, some people say that spending time in the squatting position is good for your digestion. I've even seen the claim that it's supposed to help you live longer. It's claimed to be something that you can use to cure or relieve lower back pain. This is also the position you're supposed to be pooping in, but that'd be a whole other video. Now, apart from all of these unverified claims, let's not forget that the position itself is actually really useful. It's no coincidence that Olympic lifters get into a deep squat position. It's because from here you can safely generate a lot of power. For picking up anything from the ground, the squat position is ideal because you can use the full force your legs can generate while the spine is upright. That means you're not hunched over or bent forward, and there's no risk of injuring your back. It's also a great position to be in for anything that happens lower to the ground, whether you're interacting with a kid or guiding someone through a yoga position or just grabbing a pot from the lower shelf. In other words, the squat is a highly functional position. So let's see if we can get better at it, which brings us to the 30 for 30 challenge. Here's where we started out on day one of the challenge.
We kicked off our challenge with an assessment of our squat form. It didn't take long to discover the first problem.
That's where my knee lets me go to. I know I could go a little bit lower than this, but every time I passed a certain point, an old knee injury would pop and it did not feel good. If I turn my feet out, then there's no problem. No, as low as it goes.
In the beginning, this was actually quite difficult. In part, it's difficult because we're trying to do it right. Here is what a correct resting squat is supposed to look like. Your butt comes all the way down and you close this gap between your thighs and your calves completely. Your heels stay on the ground. Also, your toes should be pointing forward as much as possible. And finally, make sure that your back doesn't round over, keep it as straight as possible. As you can see here, in order to demonstrate the perfect squat position, I'm cheating by holding on to a weight and pulling myself forward. This is also one of the tools you can use in order to get a deeper stretch and get squat progression. You can hold on to a weight or a door frame and pull yourself forward and upright. If your main challenge is that you have limited ankle mobility, you can also try starting out with elevated heels and then gradually reduce the amount of elevation as you become more flexible. Now our task is this. For the next 30 days, we must accumulate a total of 30 minutes spent in the squatting position every single day. Sounds simple enough, but is it?
Our very first session lasted around 5 minutes. Then we took a short break and did another 5. After a third round, with 15 minutes accumulated, we were halfway done for the day. We would then complete the rest in our own time throughout the rest of the day.
Daily squat meeting in the morning.
3 minutes left and already this feels whole lot easier to do for half an hour a day.
The great thing about this challenge is that there's never a wasted moment. When you need to check messages, while reading a book, or waiting to cross a busy street, or waiting for the train, there's always a good time to knock off a few minutes.
As the challenge went on, the three of us started experiencing very different results. Abhi started experiencing pain in his hip flexors and lower back that didn't get better as he was practicing the squat more. And after 17 days, he had to quit.
I didn't find the squatting itself to be particularly challenging, but at the time I was going pretty hard at the gym. My best guess is that I must have somehow screwed up while deadlifting or squatting or something or the other. And because I was forcing myself to be in this squat position for like half an hour straight, like I was doing at least 15 minutes at a time, and that must have overstrained my hip flexors and my lower back. It's February now, and my lower back is still not fully recovered. I can't do deadlifts anymore. If I do them, then I'm out of commission for a few days. So in my opinion, yes, the squatting for, increasing your range of motion and your form and just for overall health is a great idea. But if you're struggling at the time, or if you're struggling with an injury or nursing a little injury, or if you feel any discomfort, I would highly recommend to not push yourself and risk injuring yourself the way I did.
Are there any physios or trainers who want to chime in on what happened here? Because I couldn't figure out how the squat position causes this kind of pain, so I also didn't know how to fix it. For me, the squatting position definitely became easier and more comfortable over time, but I noticed that my squat is asymmetrical. Then I had the genius idea of placing a weight on my less mobile side in order to try and balance that out. This is maybe not a great idea, so don't try it at home. For me, it didn't do any harm, but it also didn't really seem to help. Both Dean and I noticed similar rates of progression in terms of how long we could comfortably squat.
The first 2-3 minutes always feel a little bit challenging. After that, it eases up, and before you know it, like 10 minutes can be done.
An easy way to do this challenge is to grab your phone and just answer messages or do whatever while you're in the squatting position. You do this while the timer is running, and then once you become too uncomfortable, you stop the timer and change position. What we notice is that on day one, we generally stop the timer after 4 or 5 minutes. And by the end of the challenge, we'd be squatting there using our phones for 12 minutes or longer before the discomfort became too much. Dean made the most progress with his squatting. He also had a knee popping issue that was almost completely resolved, probably mainly due to the squat practice.
It was amazing to see the progress I could make in just 30 days, where I would start off here and any lower, my knee would kind of pop out. A week later, I was kind of down, and then eventually I settled down right at the bottom and the knee doesn't pop anymore.
However, here's a very important detail. Dean did not stop after 30 days. In fact, it took at least 6 weeks of daily consistent squatting to get the results I just mentioned.
Although my squat's still not perfect, this has become a position that I'm actually very comfortable in.
So in conclusion, was this squat challenge a success? Is it something I recommend you do as well? Well, apart from the issues that Abhi experienced, it definitely feels like getting better in the squat is good for you. I was a little disappointed that my ankle mobility didn't seem to improve a lot even after 30 days, but there was a clear progression and I am much more comfortable in the squat now, and I say that as someone who was reasonably mobile to start with. Overall, I do recommend that you try this out, but there's a big but here. I think 30 minutes a day for 30 days might not be the best way to do this. In fact, what's probably better is to do something like 10 minutes a day and do it for the rest of your life. Like we saw with Dean's example, there are clear benefits that can come from this, but it takes longer. 30 minutes a day seems like a bit much, and if you do it and then stop after 30 days, how much are you really getting out of it? Instead, if you make it a habit to use your phone for 10 or 15 minutes a day in this squat position, and you just keep doing that every day, you might be surprised at how much good it does for you. And of course, the worse your squat is to begin with, the more benefit you'll probably notice from doing this. So overall, yes, it's recommended with the modifications I just mentioned. But also, if you're only going to do one of the 2 Ido Portal challenges, I would still recommend the hanging one more than this one. That one gave us more interesting results and it was also more fun to do. Also, check out our movement skills video if you want to discover more about why doing physical challenges like this is about more than just improving your physical health.